I watched this movie that he wasn't so I don't know awesomely titled. I guess I don't know. It's sort of a generic name, but anyway, I don't mind either way. It's whatever it is. People name their movies whatever they want. Yeah, it's called Mad Money. So yeah, it's not quite it's whatever really. Yeah, it wasn't laugh out loud comedy, but it did have some good parts. You know, it's one of those things where it's sort of subtle in a way, but also it's mostly got to do with their partners and how they react to what they're doing, not so much them. I mean, obviously, when it comes to themselves, maybe when they thought she was doing drugs and she was really diabetic, that's I suppose sort of comedic, but maybe I mean laugh out loud comedic, I suppose. Just whatever the situation was, it's sort of like a sitcom, I guess. It's a sitcom sort of moment. Anyway, yeah. Otherwise, it's sort of interesting how it happened. Everything that happened. I don't know if anyone ever really thought of binning money like that in order to transfer. Anyway, yeah. It's it's a strange one. I don't know. One of those things. Uh, yeah. But otherwise, I mean, it wasn't too funny, but it wasn't too bad either. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just don't have as much enthusiasm about movies sometimes, but yeah, at least it had, I mean, a good sort of, I mean, it's multi-genre, so it wasn't supposed to be just a comedy. It wasn't supposed to be just some sort of thriller. So so in the end, so I think if you know if one sort of checks this ratio of the multiple genres, I think they mixed them up well. So I think there was a bit of each. It was mostly comedic, though. I mean, the music was clearly composed to to have this comedic vibe to you know to imbue it with a comedic vibe and so they did that. It wasn't, I mean, mostly, yeah, thriller. Otherwise, it was, or even just a drama. I mean, obviously, it had elements, but it was mostly, yeah, mostly. So as it happens, this is the first, no, I mean, second time I think I watched Latifah. I didn't know she was such an actor. I mean, I thought she was just a singer. I don't know. So yeah, the first one will happen to be in Hairspray, where she sung instead. Well, this one was singing. Yeah, was there? No, I don't think I was. So yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it's as it happens. It's sort of an old movie now, isn't it? It's 12 years old. Yeah, that's kind of old. I had never heard of it before. Then again, this is the problem with sort of generically titled movies. It's kind of hard to hear of them. When you have like a single or two letters. That's why in my opinion movies should be titled as specifically and as um, just as much information as possible contained in the title. If you have just a single word, especially if it's a common word, how are people supposed to find it? I mean, this is, I don't know, this is Mad Money is some sort of idiom, isn't it, or such? I don't know, but yeah. um It wasn't too bad for what it was, you know. Mm. It's a bit strange that despite it supposedly being set in Kansas, it was apparently filmed in Louisiana, apparently. So a bit misleading, I don't know, I mean everything's set to Kansas, so I'm surprised that it's supposed to be in Louisiana. Did they like cover all the things or something? So even the buildings, had councils all over them. So isn't it more work to repaint everything as such? Uh, yeah. So, but otherwise, it was interesting, I suppose. I mean, it's whatever it was, really. So, I was mainly becoming a bit bored with rom-coms. Rom-coms can be so boring, right? Well, it can be, because they all have the same sort of, Whereas with this, they're always a bit different. Like, even if there are others, if you watch these sort of, heist comedies, I don't know, is that a genre? They're usually different, so you don't get exactly the same tropes as such, usually. So, I guess, it's not that I'd want to watch too many of these either, because, it's, obviously the main thing would be sort of similar, the method may be different, but otherwise, um, really, what I want you to do is watch more comedy in general, not rom-com specifically, or any other specific type of comedy, but comedy in general, yeah, is can offer many things, many different types of comedy. There are many different types, and somehow rom-coms really do predominate. It seems they just oversaturate the comedy genre, in my opinion. But yeah, this apparently was fictional film because somehow I was wondering whether it might have been realistic because it seemed somewhat realistic. I mean, not they weren't sort of they didn't become James Bond to do their thing or such. So I don't know. I thought it might be real or something, but I don't think so. Okay, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. And, you see, this is what I mean. I just searched for Mad Money, and guess what? I cannot find this. Of course, I cannot find it. It's such a and there's apparently something else as well on CNBC. So I don't know why they call it the same thing. I think they even showed this guy in the same movie, didn't they? So clearly they were aware of it. So I don't get why they want to call something the same thing as something else that they're aware of as well. Presumably they're aware of, but yeah, when they do movies, don't they how do you say, and avoid any similarities with? I'm assuming there's absolutely nothing to do with trademarks or such. I don't suppose trademarks are taken into. I don't suppose trademarks do have anything to do with just words, do they? But there is something else, isn't there? Maybe not words though. Oh, there's a lot of movies that call the same thing, so surely not. But yeah, anyway, it wasn't too interesting, but yeah, apparently it did make profit, not only just a bit more, 4 million more. So I suppose it's still sort of like what happened in the movie itself, isn't it? In the end, they didn't quite have it all, but still had some. Hmm. But yeah, there's always this. Um, oh, it was interesting. I mean, it was no documentary or anything, but I honestly don't know though if they do that in reserve banks. Assuming they do, I don't suppose they do that in actual banks. Yeah, and from what I know, yeah, the reserve banks. I'm assuming, yeah, they have the responsibility to print, and I'm assuming you don't quite hear of banks shredding money, but I'm assuming they did it. They do it, but you don't quite hear it very often, but they do. So I'm going to need to read a bit about that. So this is, I guess, this is sort of a side effect of movies. Makes you want to read more about certain stuff. Obviously, documentaries are really the best for pure information. But I've been saying that, like when I watched Wolf of Wall Street or short, what was it called again? Short something? Short, how did I forget? Short, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Daydreaming though leads to more reading. Usually. Then I do also watch documentaries at times, like the one I watched about Lehman Brothers. Now that is institutional theft, surely. I mean, just how the whole thing was deregulated, really. I mean, is so much worse than some cleaners taking money that was going to be shredded anyway. But of course, they would watch such people. They would watch the latter much more than they'd ever watch whole institutions, which is very funny considering institutional problems are much more damaging to an economy, presumably. Well, we could see what happened in 2008. And yeah, this reminds me. This movie then came out exactly when the Great Recession was about. So I think that is quite a thing there, isn't it? I mean, this presumably is fictional, but whereas they would realistically look out for people. Yeah, they go into the home. What were they calling it? Home something parties. To try to see where they got their money from. Yeah, they do that for cleaners, just not for CEOs. I mean, obviously CEOs would totally get their money from. No, what they don't give a damn about, not if CEOs have huge bonuses. No, they can vote for the bonuses all they want. No, but would they want to regulate banks so they wouldn't get those bonuses in the first place by, well, either through fraud, which obviously should be a crime, is theoretically, nominally a crime, at least for individual people. They had an all-out institutions. They often just like a breeze in the wind, that kind of thing with institutions. But no, what banks often do is over leverage themselves, and there we go. Nothing to do with having money that is going to be shredded. Nope, nothing at all. But yeah, sure enough, you see, this is what happens. Huge banks go bankrupt, and they take down loads of people out of. I've already commented a lot about this in my commentary for 99 Homes, which is obviously a slightly different thing. Yeah, a drama, which is why it prompted me to discuss it a lot more. I suppose discussing is quite the right verb here, is it? But I mean, even a comedy, I guess, in this sort of sense, can make you think. I suppose make you prompt these sort of concepts, because it's ridiculous, isn't it? Like this just sort of shows. I mean, I know that if you do not shred money, old money. Well, I mean, if somebody takes them and despite that supposedly being shredded and such, then well, I'm assuming it's the same effect as having printed more money. Besides the fact that people have them who aren't supposed to have had them, but what's worse, printing money, having money, old money that's supposed to have been shredded. So having that more in circulation, or loads of unregulated banks. And by the way, they are still unregulated. They have become unregulated in the last couple of years. So expect a great recession. part two. Yeah. So what's worse, having you know, more old money in circulation, printing money, or banks who lend out unsecured loans that have no real backing, who sell those securities then, or unsecured securities, package the whole all the debt and sell it out here and there, and somehow bet on that as well. So they just bet, and then they make more money on what is already uh, poor quality loans, and then you get those rates as well, which are utterly useless. Like you did, like Moody rated kind of loans that created a Great Recession, like what, AAA or something. They're completely useless. Um, so yeah, I mean, the latter can destroy economies, and not just a single economy, right? That's what created the Great Recession. But somehow they think that a few cleaners taking old money is worse than regulating banks, and like, even if you don't regulate, sort of, how much leverage they have and such, at least, I mean, try to see whether, they're simply having loans that are just not up to standard. I mean, sure, there should be standard. I mean, sure, that's regulation, but somehow there isn't. It's a bit difficult to have a comedy in the middle of a Great Recession, isn't it? It's like, yeah, the whole thing. 99 Homes obviously would be more reflective of what happened back then. This is more of a fictional thing, yeah, I'm assuming. But it is quite telling as well, still, that somehow they spend much more time going after such people than they'd ever spend regulating banks, or even just making sure that the stock market wouldn't take down whole other unrelated industries. Maybe sure they are related in the sense that we haven't had investment in them, like pensions and such, but the 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 recklessness of a few individuals that happen to not know their limits, or even their bosses who encourage such recklessness, or who participate in it themselves. We should totally. I mean, just societies have it totally upside the other way around. Three people, or even their partners, stealing would not take down an entire economy, no matter what. It just doesn't. Whole industries do it though. Whole institutions. Now, actually, yeah, sure enough, saying that, even a single individual who bets too much at a financial institution can bankrupt an institution. I don't think they can possibly. I suppose if the institution is large enough, it might take down an entire economy. But this is the point. The institution should be regulated anyway. There should be, this is what accountants are for. This is what I think it's the IRS as well that regulates this sort of thing as well, isn't it? Or is that just for tax? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it's a bit, yeah, it's funny that even a comedy makes me think like this. But there we go. Especially the timing of the release. Yeah, I actually haven't watched the original UK. What do you know? It's called Mad Money as well. That makes it so incredibly descriptive. And yeah, apparently it's not fictional. Yeah. Who knew? It happened decades ago, so I don't know. It's a bit one of those things when you do renditions of real crime, I suppose, especially if you sort of, I don't know, the add a bit of comedy, I suppose, sort of glamorizing it, maybe, I'm not sure. I mean, still, it's not as bad as, as I said, if the same was done to the people, who, over leveraged themselves and maybe did it. Yeah, okay, that happened in Wolves of Wall Street. Yeah, it did. It's so good. Although at least Wolf of Wall Street was caught. But there are many CEOs who simply just left their position, and that's pretty much the only negative thing that happened to them after 2008. I'm not entirely sure if there were any movies made about them, especially ones which glamorized them. I haven't watched any so far, but so I wouldn't know. But I don't know. Is it glamorizing them? If you add a bit of comedy, I'm not sure. It's one of those things. Yeah, and otherwise though, it's still a bit. I don't know. Well, I'm going to read about this as usual. I always read stuff about it. Yeah, it was still interesting though, but yeah, apparently the original was at Lawton. It's pronounced Lawton in Essex. Yeah, Northern Kansas. Filmed in Louisiana for some reason. Yeah, and apparently only one was sentenced to 18 months in prison, and they paid 500,000. They didn't seemingly know how much exactly they spent, but it just simply says more than 600,000. But I don't think it's very clear as to whether that was indeed how much was taken. Between 600,000 and 700. So are they sure it's an upper limit? It's quite a long time ago. So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know why they needed to feel. Apparently, the original though was a crime drama, so didn't have any comedy. Apparently, maybe I haven't seen it, so yeah. Um, well, somebody else stole 23,000 apparently, and they still got 69 months in prison. So that's half of what this one person got. Yeah, Wainwright, one name. Um, Half, but it makes no sense because it's not even half of the amount. You see, this is how bigger theft is just not discouraged. Just not, and this is not even the bigger sort of theft, I mean, 700,000 isn't as big as, the millions that institutions gamble, as I talked about. But then, even when you get such microcosms, this is why it doesn't make sense. Somebody who's thinking of doing this and looking at past history here, so this done in 88, 92, and the other done in 2000, that makes no sense. Why would someone get 6 to 9 months when they have taken, let's see, is about one, I don't know, about 5% maybe of the original amount, and they got 50% of the time for. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Not to mention the two participants were presumably there was more evidence than there was in the original. But so I'm not talking about I mean obviously evidence would need to be there. But yeah, this movie I guess did do a bit of I don't know, depicted everyone to walk off scot-free, whereas in reality here, one at least was sentenced, presumably due to evidence. But this is the point. Though here again, it's bizarre. The law isn't discouraging huge thefts, now is it? So if no, it's just if somebody happens to take millions, then what the law is simply doing is saying, yeah, we're going to sentence you 6 to 9 months for 22,000. But if you steal, um, let's say, 500,000 here, so yeah, great, they won't need to repay that. But, they're not even sure of that again. Yeah, and this is nothing, is it? Nothing in comparison to this institutional thing, where not only are banks not regulated, not only are they not discouraged, they're not regulated. At least, politicians deliberately deregulated them once again. After sure, 12 years passed, or a bit less than that, let's just say a decade passed. That's all they were regulated for. After the Great Recession, they were regulated for a grand total of 10 years, and then apparently people thought, what the heck, let's get another recession, why not? Because funnily, right now, it's not a financial recession as such, it's more of a health-related recession, but it's all in one cauldron of incompetence, when it comes to that as well. Deregulating them isn't quite incompetence. That's very intentional there, because of course some people would like it to be regulated. The banks themselves, yeah. It's all messed up, isn't it? I don't know. You could see it as a microcosm here, couldn't you? These people getting 6 to 9 months for 20,000 when the original who stole more than 500,000 got 18 months. So I guess if you steal 1 million, you will get 20 months or something. It's sort of reverse exponential or something. You might get a bit worse, but only a bit. So might as well, right? Of course, if you steal 1 million, like the institutions did, then yeah. Not only would you, if you get to retain the money, then you could actually lobby the politicians to deregulate it even further. So you'd be able to steal more, and then use that money to lobby them even further. Yeah, the US in particular is a special kind of system, isn't it? Very special, inverted commas, special. Yeah, especially when it comes to, finances. And regulations, very, very special, incredibly special. The cauldron of all financial recessions. Yeah, very, very much so. And many people like it like that, apparently. They have one souffle prepared for that sort of thing. Then these, instead of a witch, you get a banker swirling around the deregulated economy, and politicians just putting the spices on top. But then when another recession comes, why not? Let's bail you out. People who are about to be indicted need to bail themselves out, of course. But not bankers. No. Let's bail you out. Because of course, if you're too big to fail, and the economy will fail. Yeah, no matter that it already does anyway. But let's bail you out anyway. Anyway, this movie then was a mixed bag, as I say. It wasn't, I mean, amazing, but it's whatever really. It's not a lot of fun anyway.